Welcome to the Business Men and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Austin, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited, yes, again, and for so many reasons. We have a tremendous amount of people here on the podcast in 2018. And again, we have one of our BMWOC business corporate sponsors here on the line today. A lot of people know her, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear her interview today. We have so much to talk about, so I'm going to get right to it. The purpose of the BMWOC podcast is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the career seekers, working professionals, enthusiasts, to understand what is going on in the trends of industry today and how it's changing and how it affects you. So be sure to visit all of the pages that you will see here on this platform. And also, please take a moment to listen to all of the podcasts, or as many as you can, during the 8 weeks that this is going to be airing here on the Austin Tech website. We want to make sure that you have ample opportunity to listen to so many amazing people and their stories and their publications and what they can offer you as a value for your business or your career. So make sure you take advantage, because you cannot get this anywhere else but the BMWOC. Before we get started, we would like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors and partners, which are Cat Sereno, LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the student teacher, along with our other business affiliate sponsors and partners, and everyone who is making this event a huge success. So today, as promised, we have a wonderful, dynamic, powerhouse speaker. Miss Cheryl Wood is here in the house, going to be talking to us today. And I'm going to read a little bit of your bio. If you don't know who Cheryl Wood is, you will know after you finish talking to her today, okay? So Cheryl Wood is an award-winning international speaker, author, coach, and entrepreneur. Cheryl Wood impacts audiences from around the world with her bold and audacious approach to living life. Individuals and corporations have been impacted by her relevance, relational, and riveting message of unleashing your personal power to excel at your next level. She trains audience to overcome self-limiting thoughts of doubt and fear by giving strategic steps to help them ultimately reach their goals. She is the CEO of Personal Power Enterprises, LLC, and the founder of Playtime is Over, Women in Business Conference. And she's been featured on Black Enterprise, Fox, ABC, Oz, you name it, she was there. Okay, so Cheryl, I want to get right to it. You are there. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm going to tell you, I'm super excited because, first of all, I would like to thank you again for being a corporate sponsor to support the mission, to support small businesses and author. And also, you are being part of the movement. So thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So, in case people do not know who Cheryl Wood is, give us an introduction of who you are and how did you get into speaking?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I like to introduce myself from the personal perspective and the professional perspective. So on the
All
personal
right.
front, I am a wife. I've been married to my husband for the past 10 years. We've been together for 17 years, and we have 3 beautiful children together, 2 sons, ages 10 and 11. Yes, they are 10 months apart, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And a daughter who is our oldest, and she's 14 years old, and she's just as sweet as pie. So I'm
Nice.
praying she stays that way through her teenage years. On the professional front, I am an international speaker traveling all over the world, really helping to breathe life into the possibilities and the dreams and the hopes of women who have oftentimes put themselves on a back burner and really just chosen to put everybody else in front of them and then come up with excuses about why they can't live the life of their dreams and find their
Mhm.
purpose. And so my mission is to shift that and get more women to realize that you add your greatest value to the world by sharing your unique fingerprint and by walking in your purpose. My story, so I grew up in poverty in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland, and thought that I would be a statistic for a really long time. I didn't think I would ever, have the word success anywhere associated with who I am and what I did. And so I grew up through that environment and saw some of the worst parts of life, got out of that environment, went straight from high school into the workforce, and ended up landing a job as a legal secretary. Thankfully, I had some good business skills. My mom sent my sister and I to a vocational technical school, and that's where I learned some of my business savvy. And went straight into the workforce, started working, and stayed there, stayed stuck, if you will, for 15 years, just stuck doing what I knew how to do. And once I became a mother, everything shifted. My priorities shifted. I wanted three of the main freedoms that I believe most women want: time freedom, financial freedom, and creative freedom.
Absolutely.
And I just wasn't able to get that in a corporate space. So it wasn't that I hated the corporate space. I just wanted freedom. And I knew that I was only going to be able to get that by creating something on my own, building my own dream. So I actually started a T-shirt business in 2009 while I was still working my full-time job. I didn't just give up my job, and because I still had to pay the bills. Started the T-shirt business and would go out on the weekends and sell T-shirts at these various events. I would pay a vendor fee, get a vendor table set up, and sometimes I would sell T-shirts and sometimes I wouldn't. And I, kind of went through that whole, like, why am I really doing this?
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was I had to interrupt my norm. Because until you interrupt what you normally do, you will never experience anything different. I was just giving myself that opportunity to explore who I could become and what could potentially happen in my life. And that is truly what detoured me into speaking. So 18 months into doing the T-shirts, while still working a full-time job, I got a phone call from somebody at Morgan State University who had heard about the T-shirts. Imagine that.
Wow.
The thing that I didn't have a clue why I was doing it. That's the thing that ushered me into what it was that was really my purpose. So they heard about the T-shirt business and asked me if I would come to their annual women's conference and teach a session for other moms in the community to learn how to start their own businesses. And I honestly burst out laughing, and I was like, well, clearly you've dialed the wrong number. You can't possibly be looking for me, because I didn't have any experience.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any speaker training, didn't have any experience, and thought I felt, pretty much felt unqualified. But I really learned, to stop saying no just because you don't feel qualified, because sometimes you really have been called to do it. So I said yes, went there, and it was on that day, September 18th, 2010, when I had my very first speaking engagement at Morgan State University, that I discovered that I was born to speak. And as they say, the rest is history.
Wow, fabulous. That is a fantastic history, because I'm gonna tell you, I've heard so many stories about how people land into speaking, and I think for this interview will be really advantageous for you to kind of talk about for those folks, for particularly those folks who know who you are and they see that you go out there and you speak and you're very transparent. I mean, I've seen your videos where you just lay it all on the line, and there's some new speakers out there that just can't seem to do that. What would you say to those folks who want to speak like you're doing, but just can't seem to let go, or they feel a little stuck?
I think it depends on where you're stuck at. So some people are stuck because they're stuck in their own mind of feeling like they're not qualified, like I did when I first started. So they might have fear that's telling them they're not good enough, they're not adequate, who would want to hear their story, their story doesn't compare to somebody else's. And so a lot of people get stuck in their own mind space of, oh, I'm not qualified, nobody's going to listen to me, my story's not valuable enough. And for those individuals, I would just say, simply start upgrading your own internal dialogue. Start shifting the conversation that you're having with self. Because, it's easy to be negative. It's easy to be toxic. It's easy to fall into this thing that fear tries to push you into, this space of staying stuck and stagnant. But where you really show your true boldness and courage is in shifting that dialogue and saying something different and really unplugging and disconnecting the conversation from fear. So the more you tell yourself something, the more your mind believes it. So if you keep telling yourself you're not valuable enough, your story's not good enough, you'll never be, nobody will ever book you for the big stages, then that's what you're going to manifest. So
Right.
for those who are dealing with that issue, shift your dialogue immediately and make it positive, because the thing that you focus on is the thing that expands.
Okay.
So in terms of technical, maybe it's the mastery. Maybe you need to master your skill set. So some people aren't moving forward and they aren't getting the opportunities because they really have not taken the time to be a student of speaking. So I tell people there's a big difference between talking and speaking. Anybody can get on a stage and talk. But speaking is a responsibility. It's an obligation, because you are speaking into people's lives. You're speaking from your own knowledge, your own experiences, your own expertise, your own failures, how many times you've had to bounce back. But you are using that to speak into somebody else's life, to speak hope, to speak belief, to speak possibility, to speak knowledge, to speak lessons into someone else's life, that's a responsibility that should be taken seriously enough to say, I'm going to invest the time, the energy, the effort, the money, whatever it takes for me to master this thing so that I'm not just good, I'm not just mediocre, I'm
Mhm.
amazing when I get on a stage, and I truly create a heart-to-heart connection with the audiences that I get to speak in front of. So some of you
Okay.
just need to invest more. You need to
They
invest
need to
more
invest.
in your learning.
Okay. Okay, can you share like an example of maybe a time in your life where you were pursuing your speaking career and you faced some of those challenges where you had the naysayers and they were really just getting to you, but you somehow come out of that?
Yeah, so again, I was my own worst critic for a really long time. Like, I didn't need anybody else to say nothing toxic to me because I was saying it all to myself. So I remember I got booked for this speaking engagement in New York City, and there were going to be about 350 women there. And there were only 4 speakers, which is very rare for like a big speaking engagement. Usually there are a whole bunch of speakers. But this only had 4 speakers on the roster, and one was Mickey Taylor, who's the editor-at-large of Essence Magazine. The second one was Sharia Jackson, who is a relationship expert of Essence Magazine. And then the third one was Sophia Nelson, who is a New York Times bestseller and previous White House correspondent. And guess who number 4 was? Me, little Cheryl Wood, right? So initially I was so pumped. I was like, yes, oh my God, it's such an amazing opportunity. I can't wait. And literally, like in 60 seconds, I deflated myself.
Oh
Because the
no.
first thing I thought was,
Mhm.
oh, they're not coming to see me. This is literally
Mm.
what I was saying to myself. They ain't coming to see me. Like, what I'm
Mhm.
getting all excited for? Like, I'm a little rookie on the roster, right? So I'm deflating that opportunity within 60 seconds of being so energized and excited that I was selected for the opportunity. And I'll never forget, I picked up the phone and I called my assistant at the time who lived in New Jersey. And I said, hey, Nika, look, they told me I could bring my books and stuff to sell, and they would give me a table to sell, but I ain't bringing none of my stuff because, everybody coming,
Really?
this
You
is what I
didn't bring
said.
anything?
I told her, I said, I ain't bringing nothing
Oh
because
no.
I'm not going to sit there and look stupid at the table while everybody over at Mickey Taylor's table buying all her stuff and Sophia Nelson's table buying all her New York Times bestsellers. So I ain't bringing nothing. That's
Mm.
literally what I said.
Wow.
And when I hung up the phone, it was like reality check. I call it the voice of God. I'm just going to call it what it was. And it was like I could hear him loudly, vividly saying, Cheryl, I've already told you that you are good enough. I've proven to you repeatedly that you are enough. When are you going to believe it? Why do you keep questioning it? Boy, in that moment,
Mm.
everything shifted. It was
Wow.
just that awakening in that moment. And let me tell you, I put everything I had in my house up in that suitcase. Everything I had to sell was in my suitcase. Every book, every CD, whatever
Wow.
I had, I put in the suitcase. I went up to New York, and there was the way the schedule was mapped out. I was going to speak before Miss Mickey Taylor. So it just happened that she was on the front row as I got to share my message. And I got nervous, and fear was showing up again. And I had 18 minutes. And all I kept saying was, Cheryl, just be you. Just be the
Mhm.
real, authentic you. Don't get up here and try to say no big words that you don't know what you're talking about now. Don't try to get
Okay.
fancy. This is me talking to myself. And
Mhm.
just be you. So for my 18 minutes, I got up on that stage and I was just authentically Cheryl. I was animated. I was dramatic. I was funny. I was all of that. I was raw, my raw, authentic truth. And I got a standing ovation in that audience on that day. And after there was a break, right after I spoke, there was a brief break before we were going to come back and hear Mickey Taylor speak. And someone came in because people were talking to me and hugging me, and somebody came and tapped me on my shoulder and said, Miss Wood, can you please come out to the lobby? Whew, you have a line wrapped around the foyer of the building for
What?
people who wanted to buy my books and my
Wow.
products. And
See, that
so
is
when
just
I
so
say that,
amazing.
right, it was just imagine if
Wow.
I had allowed fear to
Mhm.
keep me stuck and to really just keep me in a space of head trash instead of proving to myself that I was good enough. And that's what we've got to do as speakers. Every time we think about shutting ourselves down and shutting our own opportunities down, we got to talk back to fear. We got to unplug the conversation, and we got to move through it anyway.
That is a fabulous story. I'm going to tell you. That is amazing. And what you pretty much said in a nutshell is that if you don't take a risk or a chance on yourself, nobody is going to do that. You did it for yourself. And it's
Yeah.
amazing what has transpired and what have come out of that one experience have turned into a huge, amazing opportunity for you going forward, right? So you've been able to
Yeah.
just go to
a-
so many places and speak to, for so many people over the course of
Absolutely.
your entire career, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I got to speak last year. I got to invited to speak in India, and I got to take my whole family with me, my husband and my three
Mm.
kids, and that was amazing. Last year, I got to speak in London for the first time. I
Wow.
traveled to the Bahamas. I mean, it's so many doors have opened, but even just as important as that, a relationship that I didn't anticipate was open. So now I have an ongoing friendship with Mickey Taylor. Like, this woman wrote the foreword for my book that I just produced. She just came and spoke at an exclusive event that I hosted for the co-authors of this book anthology I just did called Women Inspiring Nations. And she came to the United Nations, met us there for an exclusive luncheon that we did.
Mm.
So when you open yourself up to exploring, that's why I said that early, like, you got to explore what's possible. I mean, it will blow your mind. You will think you know, but you will never know until it actually happens and manifests.
Nice. Okay, so going to the other end of the spectrum, what are three of the biggest mistakes that you see that speakers tend to do with themselves when they're up there speaking? I know one of them is nervousness, but is there any other things that you can offer those who are aspiring to do what you do, not to do?
Yeah, I think number one would be I see a lot of speakers who only give head knowledge and not heart connection. So don't just give head knowledge and no heart connection. So meaning it's great to get up and give facts and figures and statistics and data, and some people in the audience thrive off of that, but you will reach more through a heart-to-heart connection, and you do that by sharing your story. So when you don't share your story, you rob the audience of a big piece of the connection that needs to be made because they're in the audience waiting to hear something that you're going to say that's going to show to them, oh my God, you do get it. You understand the pain I'm going through because you've been through it. And they only get that when you tell your story. So I would say that number one. Number two, I would say don't overteach. So a lot of times we want to pour so much information that people leave in a space of overwhelm. And when people are overwhelmed, they do nothing. So now you've gotten on stage and you've given them 10 points, 10 talking points in a 30-minute presentation, and they might remember one of them, maybe one. And so it's pull back a little bit and instead go, as we say, go deep instead of wide. Go deep into a few points, few talking points, instead of trying to go wide and give a whole bunch of points that nobody in the audience is going to remember. And then I think last but not least, I got to say this one. I see a lot of us new and emerging speakers compare their story to somebody else's story and really diminish the value of the impact that their story can have on the lives of people who are in the audience. Or they undervalue their expertise. So it's a combination of your story and your expertise. So they'll get on a stage, but they'll go up there and they'll, instead of being a confident competitor, they're going up almost as a rookie, feeling like an unqualified rookie, and it's demonstrated in their behavior, in their posture, in their tone of voice. And if you're not on the stage confident, not arrogant, but confident, then the audience is going to feel that, and they can't possibly believe that you have the solution to their problem if you lack confidence in the solution that you're providing from the stage.
Right. And I want to add this last point to what you just said, this that being a speaker is also a business. So you have to solve a problem. Just like you mentioned, you have to be able to solve a problem and relate to the person who you're speaking with in order for them to connect with you and want to have that line around the corner, right? To buy their book
Absolutely.
or to see them. And you definitely have to treat your speaking as a true business in order for you to really understand it and appreciate it. So I really loved all of those points, and I hope everybody have really taken note of what you said because that is a lot of expertise that you shared there. So let's get into Cheryl Wood Empowers. Talk about your business and how did you come up with the concept and, what impact have you made? I know you went to speak at different places, but what specific impacts have you made with women specifically and getting out of their head or not feeling stuck in what they're doing?
Yeah, well, getting to this space where I'm very clear about who I serve and how I serve the world and what my unique fingerprint is, it was a process. I didn't know when I first started. I see so many speakers and business owners who struggle with really gaining that clarity about who they're meant to serve. And again, my greatest piece of advice is do it or figure it out through exploring and through being in movement. So it's very, very hard to shift and change and pivot when you never get started. But if you just get started, you can figure out along the way what you like, what you enjoy, what you don't do well, what you do well, how you serve well, all of that. And that's what allowed me to come up with this space where, in this space now of Cheryl Wood Empowers, because that is the bulk of what I do through my work, whether it's speaking, whether it's coaching, whether it's training or facilitating something in corporate America. It's always the end result is that I want people to feel empowered to go out and execute so that they can manifest whatever reality that they want. It just happens that the core audience that I work with are women. And that's because I'm a woman, and for so long I put myself on a back burner. For so long I said, okay, I'm going to get around to my dream. But really I was wasting time. I was creating excuses. I was allowing distractions to pull me away from figuring out what my real purpose was. And we don't have time to waste. We got to get moving. We are never promised tomorrow, none of us. And I learned that firsthand. People feel like it's cliche-ish, but for me, I learned that firsthand when my father passed away in 2009 at 59 years old, passed of a massive heart attack in his sleep. So for me, that became real quick. It was no longer just a cliche that you got to make sure every day you live it abundantly and that you live it pouring all of you out so that you leave a legacy and you impact other people's lives. And so that's my mission now is to travel the world, not just in my own backyard, but the world, impacting the lives of other women who are giving themselves an excuse out of walking in purpose, who are convincing themselves that they don't have greatness within them, or they're simply waiting for greatness to fall in their lap. And what I know is that's never going to happen because you never get what you deserve. You only get what you demand in life. And so I want more women to show up for themselves and to demand what they want and then to walk powerfully and confidently in their unique greatness.
And unapologetically too. Let's do it,
Absolutely.
not apologizing for anything that we want to achieve our dreams. And you also have a internet TV show also at Voxway as well, right? That you do
I
for that.
do.
Ah.
So for a while, I did a radio show, and I was traveling too far to do it, so I stopped. But I got the bug again this year, and restarted my radio show. It's called Impact the World, which again is just so in alignment with what my mission is to for me to impact the world, but then to really give a platform to other women who are amazing in their own right to share their unique gifts to impact the world. So we air that every Wednesday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on voxwave.com. It's an amazing show. I mean, we've had such phenomenal guests just this month alone. We had Avis Jones DeWeaver, Nicole Walters, Arsha Jones. If you don't know these women, look them up. Google them. You owe it to yourself to look them up and know who they are and how they're impacting the world. So so it's exciting to be able to create a platform for other women to share their gifts.
Right. And you can also, folks who are listening, you can also catch that on Facebook Live because she does live stream her episodes. And you can also go to Voxway and see if there's playback or something like that. But you definitely want to catch all of this information because we have to stop feeling like we're getting all this empowered. And here's the other thing too, Cheryl, that's really bothering me a little bit. We have so many people out there doing women's empowerment right now. And then we get all worked up and then we go home and then we feel like we still have to be empowered. In your opinion, what is the thing that is keeping us from staying empowered once we go to that workshop or we get that speaking and we feel all energized, but we still feel stuck? Why do you think women still feel stuck and won't release to move forward?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I think there's so much power in being empowered, and I don't ever want to diminish the value of that. But I do think that once you get the empowerment and you feel great and you feel amazing, you've gotten the tools. It's up to you to execute. and there aren't enough women who are executing, or let me add this, or not executing consistently enough. So a lot of times we'll get started and we don't get the result we wanted immediately or soon enough or quick enough, and we pull out of the race. It's like, no, you got to be in it for the long haul. And some women just want it to be easier than what it's going to be. It's never going to be easy. It's never going to be free, never going to be easy, never going to be convenient. And so I think a lot of times we're holding ourselves back because we have not acknowledged that it is going to be work, like
Yes.
harder than anything you've ever done in your life. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to fight through the challenges that you're going to face, the battles that you're going to face, the roadblocks, the setbacks? And a lot of us aren't prepared mentally. We haven't mentally and emotionally prepared ourselves for some of the challenges we're going to face and the potholes we're going to fall in. And so as soon as we get started, either we don't get the results quick enough, so we quit, or we bump into a challenge or a roadblock or something we didn't expect, and we get discouraged and we fall out of the race. So it's not even that women aren't getting started. We're not staying in the race.
Yeah. Well, okay, folks, you heard it from Cheryl. You have to stay in the race. We can't give up just because we have something that goes on. There's always going to be something that's going to happen that's going to go on. But I think for my passion is that I'm like you, Cheryl. I work to empower women. I think for me, it's more of keeping people in power so that they don't give up and that they don't feel like, okay, well, I'm going to have to put this on the back burner because I keep running into these issues. And I would love to work with you or anyone else to find out how can we get women to come out of that mindset, because it is tough, because they go back to their own environment and then they have to deal what they have to deal with, and then that's when they, we get all like, what's the word I'm looking for? You get all flustered and then you
That
don't want to do
absolutely
anything, right?
right.
So maybe there's a resolution somewhere in there, but you know what? I want people to keep coming to your workshops or coming to see you speak, because I think you're an amazing person that is really striving hard to keep us empowered, and I really appreciate that. So what conferences do you have coming up in the summer months that people can come and hear you speak, and just to come out and meet you in person and talk to you and really get that empowerment feeling from you that you are trying to put out there for everybody to hear?
Well, primarily I host one annual conference, which is the Playtime is Over Women's Business Conference, and that's usually hosted every November. I don't do a whole host of conferences throughout, because that conference alone takes a full year to plan and
Mhm.
prepare and organize and get logistics together. But I consider it to be one of the premier conferences for women in business of the year. We always have amazing women who come out, successful seven-figure earners, who can teach others how to get their business started, who can teach others how to press through those challenges, how to shift their mindset about money, shift their mindset about what they're capable of. So I would say look for that. Stay connected with me through social media and look for the announcements about that for our November date. And then outside of that, just stay connected with me on Facebook. I do Facebook Lives that are educational and informative, and that's one of the best ways to connect with me. We're in a big digital world now, so we don't
Mhm.
always have to be directly in front of each other. I think that's important, but a lot of what I do is certainly aligned with the digital space and where social media has taken us.
Oh yeah, technology is definitely taking us over the moon and back with so much further reach to people all over the world. And again, for those who are listening, this is Cheryl Wood, who is a BMWOC corporate sponsor, and she has shared with us some of her greatest insights in terms of her professionalism, in terms of speaking, and what she's doing with Cheryl Wood Empowers, and how her mission, as she said, is to get us unstuck and to impact us in the way that we are moving forward. And she's not playing. She already said playtime is over.
Absolutely.
so so I'm gonna be looking out for that conference in November, because I definitely need to be there, because I'm like you, playtime is over. It's time to get moving. And you know what? We really need to have that probably more than one time in a year. It is that popular. We definitely gonna work with you on that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do some intermediate quarterly workshops or something around that.
Yeah, and it's for the smallest of businesses, because I could tell you, Cheryl, there's a lot of women out there who are doing their grind and aspire to be more than what they are, and maybe being in front of those folks who can give them that information can definitely help them as well. So I want to encourage that we work together, try to do that, and really want to thank you for being on this podcast platform today and being a BMWC corporate sponsor.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, this was absolutely an enjoyable conversation.
Awesome.